Hi, everybody, and welcome to this exciting episode of the podcast. Today, I have three amazing guests. I want to call them superheroes. These are successful women running successful businesses. And I'm giving you access to what I wish I had when I started my business. I wish I had access to women who had done the thing I was looking to do, who would inspire me. And because entrepreneurship can be lonely, and so you are in for a treat today. You're going to learn from these three amazing human beings. Welcome to the show, three of you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, before we go into the conversation, I want us to go around to introduce ourselves. I'm going to start with Melissa, then Nakisha, and then Sarah. Over to you, Melissa. Introduce yourself.
Thank you, Joy. My name is Melissa Mulligan. I am a vocal coach in the recording industry. And then I started my own business. As I started my own vocal coaching business 15 years ago. And about 8 years ago, I launched an online academy where I bring in music industry professionals like Grammy winning producers and songwriters and music industry executives to build a bridge between aspiring professional recording artists and the music industry. It's very difficult. Like you said, entrepreneurship can be lonely. It can be very, very difficult for a young contemporary songwriter, producer, performer to get great coaching and development, right? Music can be very academic when you're in school, and the music industry can be super mysterious and intimidating. Um, so I've been doing that now round the clock, nonstop for more than 8 years. It is the greatest love of my life. We have over 1,000 graduates from that program, but through other outreach and other group things we've done complementary to schools and other outfits, we've reached thousands and thousands of young aspiring recording artists.
That is incredible. As someone who recently started listening to your podcast, I must say you have an incredible voice. I listened to a couple of your episodes. The way you come across as so intelligent, talented, and so heart-centered. And so, we're going to talk about your podcast in a bit. I'm so grateful to have you here.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Over to you, Miss Nikisa.
Yes, thank you, Joy. So I'm really happy to be here. I am Nikisa Frazier Jennings, the owner of Nikisa Marie Enterprises. My company is a boutique consulting firm and it supports myself as a writer. And I am the artist manager for my husband, who is a visual artist. Um, so my core thing, if I had to pick one niche, it really is self-care, though, because I start there. That has to be my foundation for everything, especially as entrepreneur that wears many hats and does many different things. So no, 2 days look alike for me. And like I said, I am the manager of my husband's art career currently, and I have been for over 20 years. That's kind of how I got into being an entrepreneur, helping him in the background to get his artwork out there and things like that. Then that grew to other artists wanting me to manage them, other visual artists, painters, because being, a visual artist, there's not a lot of people who do that. And especially if you don't live like in New York or California or some of those, big areas. So I live in the Seattle, Washington area and have for many years. And so I ended up having quite a few artists. And then I myself am a writer. I do performance, literary performances, I should say, of my writing. Most of my writing is nonfiction. I write about the Black experience, the Black woman's experience in our society. And I read those to audiences and sometimes not. And sometimes I write for local news outlets as well. So I mix all of those things together. And most recently, I was inspired just due to my own self care journey to create a series of self care books. I have 7 of them for all ages. And I really prioritize self care for Black women because no matter what we do, whether we're an entrepreneur, whether we work for someone else, or a combination of the two, we need self care to keep going, to be well, to be healthy, and to love ourselves. So that's me.
That is incredible, what you've achieved, Nakisa. And when you mentioned that you've been managing your husband for 20 years, I'm like, hang on a minute. Did she start when she was 6? How can
It's
you?
really 25, but thank you.
That's incredible.
Thank you. You're so
You're
kind.
welcome. You're welcome. Hi, Sarah. Introduce yourself.
So thank you for having me on here. I'm Sarah Quintero, the founder of Karma Sheet. It is a digital platform and ecosystem for independent businesses. I originally launched it because I have a history and background in retail management. I studied fashion merchandise at Florida State University, and then was in retail management, had my daughter, so it took a couple of years off. And then when I decided to go back to work, I decided I was going to own. That was my ultimate goal when I studied fashion merchandise. So I kind of always had an entrepreneur side in me since I was little. And so formulated in 2014, I opened my first brick and mortar consignment store. And then within 1 year, I'd grown 40% and grew out of that space. Thought that I should get a bigger space and grow fast, which was kind of like a downfall of what, you know, of my business because times change and I could not compete against e-commerce. The Real was coming out, Poshmark. And so I decided to pivot and bring in new retail. And then at the time we had a non-hurricane happen. And so that was I shut my doors in January of 2018. But with all that I learned from that experience was that there were independent businesses or small businesses that needed help with technology, with some of these artisans that I sold their product in my store. They didn't want the tech. All they wanted to do was sell their products, so like handles and this, and also costs. There was cost barriers. I, as a small business owner, I did all my marketing. I did my website. I did everything, and I knew how pricey it was. So I came up with formulated this concept of to bring my site as a multi-vendor marketplace back in 2018. Well, then obviously life happened. COVID, it wasn't the right time. And a couple of years ago, I kept on having this little birdie on the side of my shoulder saying, you still need to do this. You need to do this. And so in 2023, I actually said, well, is there still a need with all the technology out there? Do these small businesses, still feel that they don't want to deal with technology? Is there still cost barriers? So I did some market research and hit some markets and reached out to some local artisans and small business, and they said there's definitely a need. There's the prices, I guess, on the other sites at Etsy and the costs are just so exorbitant. We don't want to be on this platform. We don't, there's this. We're getting this thrown all at us at the same time. So I said, okay, well, then I'm going to create this. I'm going to create marketplace first. And then I integrated agency aspects into it. So you can, if you join my site, it's low cost and I have different tiers, but I help you do your brand audit and compile strategies and now AI workflows to help you scale your business and grow your business. So that's me in a
Wow,
nutshell.
that's incredible. That's incredible. I love your story and how you've evolved with the times. And it seems like you're always ahead of the curve. And I think that's one of the traits we have to have as entrepreneurs. So well
Yes.
done on the success you've created. I want to, in this next section of the interview, I want to ask you, what's your experience so far in growing your business to the level of success you've created? The reason I have this question, and I'm going to start with you, Melissa, is that starting a business can be easy. Anyone can start a business. I believe where many people struggle is staying in business.
Mhm.
So In your experience, what would you attribute to your success?
That's such a great question. It's actually one of my favorite ones. And I was very much relating to what Nikisa and Sarah have also shared, which is the beauty of the pivot. You know,
Mhm.
people like to think about
Yes.
scaling as a linear thing, but there are many times where you may just need to like burn the original idea down strictly to the intention of who it is you're trying to serve. And I think
Mm,
that's where the magic happens. So, you know, my calling in life, I am very clear on this. Like I was a professional performer, singer-songwriter. I did that for a living. I loved it. But at this season of my life, my calling is encouraging, inspiring, and guiding
mm,
music makers, right? And so whatever they need, I figure out a way to create that and get that to them. And
mm,
what I'm offering them and how I get it to them and how I find them needs to change. But I'm not married to the service that I offer on any given year. I'm not married to the way that I deliver it. I am simply married to my purpose and my intention. And at that point pivots become easy. You know what I mean? They become kind of surface level decisions that have nothing to do with, but I built this up and now I have to change. Like you're not. The core doesn't change, but your external circumstances, their external circumstances, the tech, all of that will change. And I
mm.
think that is like the number one thing that anyone in business needs to get clear on, especially now when things are changing like sometimes daily. You know, I think it's super, super important.
Oh, wow. Like mic drop moment there. I can so relate because when I started my business, I was a midlife coach. I started as a midlife coach, and that didn't work out, but I didn't give up on my dreams. And so I love what you just said, and definitely a mic drop moment. Thank you so much. How about you, Nikisa?
So, what Melissa said really resonates with me, and I often talk about this when I give workshops to artists and creatives about pivoting. Um, I mean, I just feel like that's been the central theme through, these 25 years of being an entrepreneur, 25 years plus, because, I babysat and made chocolate chip cookies for my neighbors when I was like 10. So it's been more than 25 years. But um, when my husband and I first moved to Seattle and we knew that we wanted to get into the art, world and try to figure out how to get his work out there. Well, his grandfather was his first art teacher, right? His first art instructor. He came from a certain generation and artists got their work out there in a very specific way, visual artists, that is. And we tried that way. We approached galleries, we approached museums, and it really didn't, we weren't really feeling the love. People weren't welcoming us in and that kind of thing. And so I said, you know what, we'll just do it on our own. I'll figure out what a manager does. I don't know what that is, but I'll figure out, how to do this in an independent way. So that was the first pivot right from the beginning because we thought we were going to get with a gallery or, whatever, be gallery represented. And even the galleries that did want to represent him, to be honest, they really, often take a lot of a percentage from the artist and they want to control everything that the artist does. Meaning, if he were to book, say an exhibit in another state that has nothing to do with them or the collection that they're showing at the time, they still would want a percentage of that. And so I wasn't giving anybody 50 or 60% of everything that he made. And also, I really pushed him to think outside the box. Everything couldn't just be, like exhibits. I said, we need to have products. We should do a greeting card line. We should do, because he focuses on portrait paintings, and there aren't a lot of portrait paintings in general and commercial products, especially back then in the late 90s, of people of color. So I said, let's do, a whole line based on your artwork of greeting cards, have them be blank, let people put whatever they want in them, right? And that was really a powerful thing for people and for us. We did tote bags, we had bookmarks, we did stickers, and people really liked different ways to be able to access art. I also feel that when things just changed for me personally, I started getting my writing out there. So I was managing myself and I had to think the same way, like, how am I going to make money as a writer? Because typically that's not a thing, right? A lot of writers don't get a lot of money. So I had to pivot in many different ways in that space. And then, like I said in my intro, my mission, my goal in life is to make sure that Black women are engaging in self-care no matter what they do in the rest of their lives. It's very important. And so I had to figure out how I was going to weave that in, because that over anything else is my mission. So I had to do things that were necessary to make sure that my branding kind of made sense, and what I talked about, online and things like that, that I could weave them together. They still made sense and it didn't make people confused.
That is incredible. I love what you just said. And yes, learning how to pivot, I think, is key for entrepreneurs. But to you, Sarah, I feel like people will judge, right? We might think, oh, people are going to judge me and say, oh, I'm changing my niche again, or I'm changing my strategy again. And so all of the things that we think people will judge us for might keep us from actually making the pivot, even when we know that it's time to make changes. So, in your experience, Sarah, what do you think the mindset is? How have you been able to stay ahead of the curve and make all of those changes without worrying about what people will think about you?
Because I had the experience of opening my storefront and then shutting it down, um, I think that Karma Chic 2.0 is totally different, and I'm approaching it totally different. My original store was named Sarah's Karma Chic Boutique, and I 100% had imposter syndrome. I know that that's a buzzword, but no, I really truly did. Um, for example, my mom helped me, and I was always say, she helped me within the store, and I would say, we are doing this, not I doing this, even though I was the owner. I would go on camera when there would be news stories. Absolutely not. And so I decided this time I'm gonna approach those fears, get over those fears, and do this a lot different. But had I not had that experience of where I felt like a complete failure, I don't think I would be able to attack like what I'm doing or be as confident as I am now. And that's kind of what I coach some of the independent businesses that help as well. And because they're just, a lot of them are just starting out. And they just want that kind of mentor. I mean, that's obviously not my official role. It's just, that's a part of the strategies that I do, but just some support and just say, am I doing this? Why am I doing, we always have the 3 o'clock in the morning. What am I doing? Is this the right way? And, should I pivot? And I kind of really truly press that, look at the numbers, the strategies, as long as you're putting one foot in front of the other, and you're showing up, as long as your numbers are moving in the positive. They won't always, but if they do, then that's really important.
I love that so much, and I can so relate. I was imposter syndrome personified when I started.
I was.
And yeah, and just like you mentioned, I got better by doing the work, by showing up and being uncomfortable, being afraid, but still taking action. And I think that's where many people, especially women, struggle. We want to wait until we are 100% confident, and confidence doesn't come unless we take action. So I love that so much. Melissa, I'm going to come to you and I want to ask you, For many women, especially women I talk to, selling and sales is one of the parts of their businesses that struggle with the most, actually making sales. And I find that as women, many of us are very heart centered, right? And so the idea of constantly selling or making money might be very foreign to us, especially when we start. So I want you to tell us, how did you overcome that? How did you learn to sell? How did you learn to make money and actually create a successful business?
Ooh, you're opening up a can of worms here because of course I'm sitting here going, well, I just don't sell. I just don't think of it that way. I so clearly I still have an issue with that association of me and heart-centered work and the word sales, right? Um, I had to learn to get comfortable with that later in my business. So when I had been vocal coaching as like a part-time sustainable income plan while performing for a living. And it just kind of came to me, right? I was performing a lot. People would say, "Do you teach?" I'd say, "Yes, I've been trained to teach. I don't do it a ton." So that was so easy. And then when as you heard on my podcast episode, I think with Mike Mangini, I was sort of discovered by someone in the music industry, worked with some high level clients. And then my mentor, was like, you need to open up an official business, get ready because your clients are going to start rolling in. And they did. It was very word of mouth. This is 2009, 2010. Word of mouth was possible back then.
Mm,
And then as a result of demand, I started a free Facebook group for people that I couldn't take on as clients but wanted to help for free. And more and more and more interest is coming, and I'm building up Music Career Mastermind. And then, just about the time when advertising and things started to get harder, 2020 happened, and we were
mm,
the only established enterprise doing online music industry coaching mentorship that was established and proven. And all of the people that wanted to work with us but didn't have time or were kicking it further down the road came flooding to us.
mm,
So in 2021 and 2022, when musicians in particular were like, I'm not doing anything online. I am not sitting on Zoom ever again. I need to get on stage, on the road. I am so done Twitch streaming, TikToking, like F this. I'm not doing this anymore. And younger students were like, yeah, I'm going to join a soccer team. I don't even care about my guitar anymore. I just want to be outside. And
mm,
meta and advertising and the algorithm, everything changed. And that's when I
mm,
was like, oh, wow, I don't know who I am in this landscape. I don't know,
mm,
and the music coaching, the online music coaching space is now flooded with opportunists and scams and
mm,
legitimate people giving things away for free. And it's so different. It is so, so, so different. And I've really struggled to get comfortable showing up on a video and running an ad saying,
mm,
hey, I'm offering this free resource, and dealing with all the trolls in the comments, like I, man, it was so uncomfortable. It felt like a step backwards, almost like maybe I failed in some way because business used to just come to me because I'm just great at what I do. I really believed in that. I guess it's a myth now that if you're great at what you do, people will find you,
people will come. Mm,
you know, and word of mouth will spread. And with music coaches, it's a little weird. Sometimes artists don't want to share their secret beloved coach with others. And so yeah, I really had to get right with that. And I would say at this point, I really just I'm very I'm very careful who I invite to work with. I'm still
mm,
application and invitation only. I still just really boil it down to my intention is to help. My intention is to
mm,
transform someone's life. And who am I to hide that opportunity from someone who might need it? If I play
mm,
small, I really believe in what I do. And so if I play small and hide, and don't offer an opportunity, to work with me, I'm not doing anybody any favors, right, by playing small.
Mm.
The charging money for my services, I don't have an issue with. I also teach my artists how to do that themselves. So if it ever feels uncomfortable, I just say I got to walk the walk and, and do that. But yeah, for me, it was more about entering into that advertising to, to the rest of the world. That I don't know if you both feel that way or the three of you feel that way at all, but that was a huge hurdle for me to get over.
Yes, that is so profound. And you have a talent for telling stories. Like what you just said, I was wrapped up in your story and you took me away. So that's incredible. Yes, I have tried running ads in the past. I haven't found success yet with ads. Yes, that struggle of people trolling you in your ad and giving you nasty comments. I think that's one of the things we have to work through as entrepreneurs, as business owners, especially if we want to make the kind of impact we want to make. And I love what you said about you were so uncomfortable, but because you knew you wanted to make an impact, you have a gift, and it felt like you were holding it back from all of these people. And so you had to overcome your, I want to say, your trepidation for being on video and running an ad. And that's such a profound lesson for people listening to this podcast, and even for me attending this podcast live. I am learning from your story of having to overcome all of your limiting beliefs to then show up for your future self. And that is now reaping, like you're reaping the rewards of feeling that discomfort at the beginning, just to be able to put yourself out there. So,
Sure.
so congratulations on that, I must say, Melissa.
Oh, thank you. I learned that I had been hiding, nasty comments, and I don't get a lot of them, but let me be very clear. People are generally nice. But I have learned this year when I get a comment that's got some friction to it, to just show up and say, hey, you know what? I really appreciate this comment because you're giving me an opportunity to practice what I teach, which is to
Mm.
respond with grace and humility and say that I hear you. And because there's so many people reading your responses, so many more people, nice people, who are reading your responses, and it's a chance for you to show grace in class in those scenarios. But yeah, it can be very uncomfortable.
Yes, very uncomfortable. And you just said something that struck a nerve with me because when I wanted to open up a panel interview for my podcast, I posted on Threads, and the feedback was amazing. So many lovely comments. And there was this particular lady who said, "Oh, you are charging people to be podcast guests on your podcast. That is nasty." Like she just said this mean comment about me on Threads, and it was so not true, but like it really broke me. So even though I had, I think on my latest post over 200 comments, just that one nasty comment got to me, right? So that's the work I have to do. And thank goodness I was so nice in my response. I said, "You got it wrong. I don't charge people to interview on my podcast." And so yeah, so I can so relate to what you said about showing up with grace and just leading with love. So I'm learning to run my business from a place of love. Thank you so much, Melissa, for that. I want to go to you, Nakisa. How do you make money? How have you grown your business to the success you've grown it to be as a woman running your business in a world, I want to say, that is flooded with bro marketing? How have to you learned to grow your business and make money?
So if you don't mind, I'd like to answer the question you asked Melissa first, because I think it's very important, especially for women who look like me, to hear me say that I do not have any issues with making money. I, I don't, sometimes when you're growing up or you even look back at your childhood, you don't realize, thank you, that there's certain things that you see, like nonverbal communication, or like people that you're watching that kind of plant a seed in you, right? That you don't even know is going to manifest later. So I would say that when I was young, probably a early teenager, I guess, my next door neighbor worked from home, and she had three like kids under 5. And she was the first person I ever saw to work from home. So that kind of planted a seed in me, like for way later, right? I didn't even know that that would be something that I could do. Also, all of my parents, mom, stepdad, and bio dad, all were entrepreneurs in one way or the other throughout my childhood. So either they had a full time job and did something on the side, or they worked as an entrepreneur full time. So that also planted a seed. They wanted me to get a job, and like do my passion on the side. So it wasn't like they said to me, you should be an entrepreneur. I think really quite the opposite was what I kind of heard from them. But it did plant the seed in me that it was possible, right? And I also believe that because of what I do, or what is involved in what I do. So, like I said, my husband's artwork and a lot of the artists that I've worked with, the subjects that they work with are Black women, or Black children, or women and children of color, portraits that they paint and create of them. So I believe that that is one of the things that is very important that I do, that people need that. They need to see that. They need to be able to access that. They need to see me as a Black woman putting that out there. You know what I mean? And I need to make money from that, just period. Because no one questions if we make money if we work for someone else. So we need to make money if we're working for ourselves, for sure. Because like Sarah was saying, there's overhead, there's, inventory that you need to pay yourself. And so when I work with artists, especially, I always tell them, and any entrepreneur, I always tell them, if you are working for, I don't know, Pixar or something, and they asked you to give them 10, examples of some character they want in a new movie by noon, they're going to pay you to think. They're going to pay you to sit there and think. So when you are creating your artwork, or you're creating a plan, a packet, whatever it is, you should be compensated for all those different things. If you work for someone else and you go on a business trip and they give you per diem or mileage, right? They're paying for you to drive there. So you should be paying yourself to drive to the post office to mail things out. So I think that my ancestors, paved the way for me to be able to have so many of the experiences that I have now. And I have no problem charging for those things. Like Melissa was saying, sometimes you have some high ticket packages or items that then allow you to do some pro bono work, or give some things away for free, or do, workshops where maybe an organization might hire me to do the workshop, but have it be free for the attendees. But regardless, I'm going to make sure that I get compensated, because I need to eat, and because I should be getting compensated, right? So I don't have any problem with that. And I also know that people need what I have. So because I know that, I have no problem charging for it, especially around self-care. Now, I'm not trying to make a killing, as they say, but I do need to be compensated. Like, books cost money to publish. It costs money for me to offer free shipping, actually, so I have to absorb that cost, and I have to deliver, take stuff to the post office, all of that. But they are getting something very needed in their lives, because even I think art is needed. We need art because we need beauty in the world, right? So the world will be very sterile if we didn't have art. And again, I can't stress enough, it is my responsibility, I believe, to show people who look like me that you can do it. You should do it. That there are people out there that want what you have, that need what you have, and you should be compensated for it, period.
I
Standing
go
ovation.
God.
Standing ovation right now.
You see, I'm passionate about it. I really do believe that.
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. Like, Sarah has a hand raised, but the thing I want to say. There are so many gold dust you dropped. And there are two things I'm going to come back to. I'm going to let Sarah go first. I'm going to make a note, and I'm going to come back. Two things you said, Nakisa, I want to stress. Go ahead, Sarah.
There's two things that I wanted to talk about from what you just spoke about. One is showing the opportunities of Black women or younger Black women that you can do this. I have a different experience of wanting younger women to be in the tech industry.
Mm.
When I decided to do this, I knew I couldn't come in. I had some tech skills. I did my, I'm kind of like an autodidact. I can teach myself. So I did all my websites and everything from when I had my business. But when I kind of still was formulating this plan, I said, all right, let me work and see if I can work in a startup tech company. Like, don't even know how, but there was one right around the corner from my house in South Tampa. And just so happens I was running by and I said, let me just see if they're hiring. I love their, what they're for. I've been going to dinner. They had an office above this restaurant I went to for years, and they just were hiring, just so happened hiring an account manager. Well, I could do everything, the account manager side. But when I got in or got to hire, they're like, you're going to have to do more with your technical skills. And I said, perfect. I can do this and I can account manage in my sleep. But I do have this idea that I kind of want to formulate. And I told them, they were like, okay, we're an insure company. That's e-commerce. Totally fine as long as it doesn't bother, your work. Well, I was there for a year learning the inside outs of this software company, and I loved it. And I was like, all right, so maybe this was my path and not starting my other business. But I tried, and our C-suite were all men, and I tried to get a promotion. I tried to do this. I went above and beyond. I would write white papers for the marketing team. I was doing this, and I was like, I'm never going to be anywhere in this company. I'm just not. Like, I know AI, we're integrating AI, so we're going to, my position is going to be eliminated one day anyways. I'm never going to be up here with that team. I love the owner, the CEO of the company. I just knew my place was not there. And so then I started, all right, I'm going to do this. And then so many of people there and my friends and family were like, you're doing what now? Okay, you're doing this in tech, really? And so I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna apply for AI for business strategy at Johns Hopkins. Got in, did that for 10 weeks, did a digital marketing, and I did this. And I was like, yeah, and I'm gonna show this because it is so many young women are not taken serious in the tech industry. And even though I'm not fully considered tech, I developed the tech stack and did it myself with one developer. So I didn't just throw this on on Shopify. No, like this is my tech stack. So I just wanted to show, younger women that they could do that. And then also what you said about pricing. It took me until going to a women in honor entrepreneurship in tech meeting before I started charging on my site, because I felt like I still was beta testing. Even though I had 50 businesses on there, I was not charging what I was, but that was my own confidence. And so this woman who was in charge of the meeting, it was a happy hour. She said, looked at my site and said, where's your pricing? And I said, well, I haven't really charged. I charged for strategy meetings. She said, no, you need to start charging. And because of that meeting and that woman, and she was like, you have the product, you have product, point of proof of concept. And I was like, oh my gosh, okay. So women, and then women again, that totally told me how to charge. So that's the little take I wanted to give.
That is so profound. And as someone who's been in the tech industry for over 23 years, I can relate to everything you just said. And I want to say, going back to what Nikisa said and what you just said, Sarah, getting to that place where you have what other people need, and owning that, being confident that you have what people need, you have what people want to pay for. And I feel that confidence is what helps us to show up, make a ton of money, and not apologize for making money. So good on you, Sarah. I also want to mention one thing that Nikisa said was about honoring the sacrifices of our ancestors. Women, women in general, all women, our ancestors have paved the way for us, and it is our responsibility, it is our obligation not to fail them. Did you know, in as recently as the 80s in the US, a woman couldn't have a credit card unless there was a male, whether her husband or her son, would co-sign for the credit card for her. So women, our ancestors have paid the price, and we have so much opportunity now, and it is our responsibility to make as much money, to exploit our potential, and to serve. So thank you all so much. Over to you, Melissa.
Yeah, that was gorgeous. And I remember my mother trying to get a credit card after she and my dad got
Mm,
divorced, and she could not. I'm like crying just remembering that. Um,
wow.
okay, I would love to talk about this idea of charging what you're worth because I have seen it trip up a lot
Mm,
of people in my industry in particular. You know, I work with a lot of producers and songwriters and performers who are struggling to charge a venue or a client for their services, and this notion of charge what you're worth, I think, confuses people because you're worthy. You just
mm,
are worthy. Like, you get out of bed in the morning, you are worthy of a career. You are deserving of a career that
mm,
lights you up. This isn't
mm,
about this isn't about, hey, if I've created a business where the numbers just don't work, you know, where like the demand isn't such so that I can make what I want to make for what I'm offering, that doesn't mean you aren't worthy or that your
mm.
service isn't worthy of it. It just means the math doesn't math, you know? And I also think that when you know that you have something people need,
Wow.
the first person who needs to believe in you and invest in you is you.
Mm,
And so you need to teach yourself that you're worthy, that your business idea is a great one. And that might mean beta testing, doing pro bono work, grinding it out, hustling, having a side hustle, having other sustainable income plans like Nikisa, your parents were like, do this, but then do this on the side, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think there is this mythological moment where you have an idea, charge a high ticket for it, and everyone just converts based on worthiness. I don't know how you both feel about that, but I know that there are a lot of like people with business ideas trying to figure this out, and I just wanted to maybe open up that definition of worth and where that comes from.
Yeah, thank you, Melissa, for sharing that. It makes me think about the biggest disagreement my husband and I ever had about an art exhibit that it was like a pop-up really, but I don't feel like that term was used at the time. It was just a one night thing that I just came up with. I was like, you have enough of an inventory and a catalog now. You can do like a one person show and we have these products, and I'm going to make it after 5 and I'm going to find a venue and I'm going to invite people and they're going to come. I just knew that they would. And so I did that. I found a space, and the space was wonderful. It had exposed brick. It gave you like the New York vibe, and we hung all his work. We had tables, we had snacks. I made him do a PowerPoint. He was real mad at me because I wanted, people to have a full experience, not just come by things, like be able to ask questions and things like that. But my husband, had two different types of prints, like regular, prints that we just like did at home. And then Clays, which are archival on archival paper and ink and all that. That's a specialty type of thing. And we had to, get that done by a specialty printer person. And so he was undercharging for that. And I kind of let him do that while we were like doing community vending events and things like that. But when we had this night, I was like, it's time for us to transition, pivot, right, to charging what things cost. Because another thing that happens if you don't charge the right thing, then people will think that you're trying to scam them or it's not really the actual thing or whatever. So that there's a danger in that too. So we argued, and we don't really argue. We argued until we left, until we got to the door, because I changed the price from $50 to $100. And he was like, no one's gonna buy it. Oh my gosh. Da, 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 da. We made $8,000 that night in 3 hours. He had never made $8,000 in a year up until that point. But I priced everything as they should be. I had little packages, like you could get 10, greeting cards for whatever, or you could get a tote bag and a little pouch. But I made sure that things were priced appropriately. I packed the house, and I was the cashier. And so it was like a little overwhelming because the line was like around the whole room of people holding their products and wanting to get that. And people do want to support you. I think that when you were saying, Melissa, that sometimes the math doesn't add up, I don't think that people should stay in that space forever. But I do think that it doesn't add up sometimes for
Yep.
now, because maybe you
Yes.
haven't found your, core audience. They don't know about you or whatever. So I think that I always just want to encourage people to think about some of the risks of not charging what you're supposed to charge, because there are, many, and it could be a detriment to your business or your mission or your journey later on down the line.
Yeah, 100%. Thank you for tying that up for me because I think I left that thread dangling, which is if the math doesn't add up, it's not necessarily a signal that you're doing something wrong or that you're charging the wrong thing, or, it doesn't mean you're not worth it or that the idea isn't good. Yeah, it might just be keep going, figure it out, drill down. Yeah. Yes, thank
Mhm.
you.
I did want to just say one more thing about that, because when I released my first self-care book, people were like, people don't people don't know you as that. People are not. I'm like, but people need that, and
Mhm.
always ask me. People always ask me, how do you do all these things? You have all these different jobs, and you show up at 6 a.m. at things full of energy. And I'm like, oh, well, I do that because of my self-care practice. So it's very authentic for me to share my own journey and then give people what they need. And there are so many women who look like me who wouldn't even have thought about, these are people that I know who have told me this. They wouldn't have even started their self-care journey if it weren't for me saying, hey, I got this book and I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to do a virtual book tour that I'm just going to put out there. And it's been a year and a half. I released my first book in July of 2024, and I've sold hundreds of books on my own. I don't have an agent. I don't have, and that's not like a ton, but it seems very successful to me because I'm doing this very, very part-time. I don't have time to put my all, 24 hours a day into this one lane that I'm in. But I know that people need it. And I know that there's a segment of the population that needs to hear it from me in order to even take that step for themselves. So I did it anyway.
Gosh, I did it anyway. Like, I'll underline that. I did it anyway. I cannot believe what the time is telling me. I feel like we just started because I am enjoying this conversation. I'm going to go to you, Sarah, and I want you to tell us because someone is listening to this episode right now and they are not at the success they want their businesses to be, right? And then listening to all of you amazing, successful women, they might be thinking, how do I get there? How do I get from where I am now to the place where my business is sustaining me, my business is bringing in lots of money, and I feel like I'm having an impact, I'm fulfilled. So, in your experience, Sarah, what will you tell that woman who is thinking that right now?
Whenever I'm asked this question, the first thing I say is just start it. Just start and do something every day. A couple of years ago, I had read Daily Atomic Habits and I implemented that and I started doing something every single day that would something, even if it's a note or just a brainstorming, something that would help my business. And I put one foot in front of my other. And then, really, truly, that the whole theory of the book is every action that you do every day compounds 365 days a year. So I did.
Mm,
And I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually, this works. I mean, the first time I did my business, I just drew up the plans of this or this, and I was so chaotic. This time is
mm,
built with systems and doing something every single day. And I also, my second advice would be, I mean, this is like parallel to just starting and doing something every day, is don't be afraid to ask for help.
mm,
Recently, it has in the Tampa Bay community, we're so very lucky. There's a huge tech community that want to offer to support. LinkedIn's amazing. I mean, I listened to this Mind Valley. There was a summit that was a couple weeks ago, and one of the speakers, I just commented on LinkedIn, and she reached out to me and connected with me. And she was speaking
mm.
at this huge summit, and I was just like, oh my gosh. So I didn't do that before, and now I do. Now I'm like, all right, if I hear something like Nikisa's expertise or Melissa's expertise, I'm going to go on there, whatever. And I listen to a ton of podcasts. Go on there, contact their information, or see if I resonate with them. I'm going to listen to them, or I'll reach out if they are, obviously not way, way up here, but most people will respond, and in your local community as well.
Wow. Oh my gosh. I'm going to re-listen to this podcast because this is like a master class on how to grow a business. Incredible, incredible, incredible. I'm going to go to you, Melissa. I want you to um, tell us about your business. So we're going to go around. I want you to tell the audience about your business and how you help people, and how, for people who want to take the next step with you, tell us what the next step is.
Sure. All right. I'll try and keep this brief because, like any entrepreneur, I wear a million hats and do a bunch of different things. Very relatable. Um, the main way that people get started working with me would be to go to my website, which is mastermindroad.com, mastermind, ROAD, like a roadmap.com. And on there, there's a work with Melissa form where you can literally tell me, I make music, I perform, I write, I produce. I'm a high school student, a college student, gap year, I'm older, whatever. You can send me your music. You can tell me what your challenges are and where you're feeling stuck in any aspect of your career development, whether it's I want to get better at a specific skill, or I want to go on tour, or I want to collaborate with other people, or I can't figure out how to grow an audience on social media. Anything at all that's a question mark for you in your music career, that is where you tell me all of that. I review everything personally. I don't delegate. I don't have a team who does that. I review it all personally, and then I will get back to you with my thoughts. In some cases, it might mean let's work together one-on-one. And in like one session, I think I can solve all of this for you. It might mean, hey, maybe you become a vocal student or an artist development student with me one-on-one. It might be that I refer you to someone on my team, a producer, a songwriter, somebody that can coach you. Or it might mean that you're a good candidate for like one of our flagship group coaching mentorship programs. Our main one is called Music Career Accelerator, where you're doing live music production mentorship, music industry development, artist development with us over 90 days. But everything is very bespoke. I'm not hireable. You can't just go online and book me. You can't just go to the program and enroll. I don't do online courses where you just download videos. Like, it's bespoke. Transformation doesn't come from information. It comes from
Mm,
experience. It comes from experience. It comes from working with the right coaches, getting the right help, making sure that you vibe with them and that we're giving you what you need. So I am more than happy to make recommendations for other resources if we're not the right fit. I never just say like, nah, not good enough. It's always like, how can I help? But yeah, that's the best way to get in touch. Even if you're like, I'm doing all right, but I'm not making enough money at this, right? How do I figure out
mm.
the right business model for myself in the music industry? And I'm there for that conversation.
That is incredible. And I just want to say to the listeners, you are having access to Hollywood's A-lister, right? Melissa, You've built a successful business. You have access to all of these big names in the industry. And now you are just serving people with your gifts, your talents for free here on the podcast. And so I am just so grateful for you for all the success you've created.
Thank you,
Nikisa,
Joy.
I'm gonna go over to you. You're welcome.
Thank you. So again, I own Nikisa Marie Enterprises, which is a boutique consulting firm located in Tacoma, Washington, in Western Washington State. And what I do, kind of at the core of it and how it started, is similar to Melissa. I kind of have a similar setup. I talked a lot about working with artists and managing my husband and all of that, but honestly, I'm getting out of that business because just frankly, I don't like it. So but what I do like, and also, my husband's getting a new manager at my request because I want someone who can take him further than I can in that world. Someone who's connected, is in the rooms that I'm not in and all of that. But what I've learned along the way is transferable to really almost any entrepreneur, small business owner, individual who wants to start a business or get their business organized or whatever. So I help individual small business owners and entrepreneurs create plans, get very clear about their goals, help them get organized, and tell their stories. So I offer biography writing packages. I help people with their elevator pitches. I will do kind of a in the background organizational like assessment, like, do you just need like a doable schedule so that you can get things done? Do you need someone who can be from kind of the outside? So I look at myself as like the pre-consultant because I'm not charging people $500 an hour. A lot of people are not even at that level. I'm charging them a reasonable amount to get prepared to maybe work with a manager or a high price consultant like that. And then also, obviously, like I mentioned before, self-care is another thing that I've woven in. So I do have my self-care products that I'm actually today finalizing a free checklist download people will be able to use, whether you're a business owner, a stay-at-home mom, a teacher, whatever, to doing a self-assessment on where they are with their self-care. And if they need a resource, a tool that's accessible, I do have my books available for kids, teens, and adults. So
Yeah,
that
we'll all be
is,
buying that. We'll all be
you
buying the books. Yeah.
will love that. But thank you. So I have those in my online store, and I have some other, art stuff in there, but I'm phasing that out because I do really want to just focus on the business consulting and the wellness aspects of my work. And people can go to my website and like Melissa was saying, they need to look at what I offer. If they want to consult with me, they need to go to the contact me form, fill that out, and I will review it and get back to them because I also do not have it set up where people can just click and, buy my time.
That is incredible. Our listeners, I'm going to have all of those links in the show notes if you're listening on Apple Podcast or Spotify or anywhere else you got your podcast. And if you're watching us on YouTube, all of those links will be in the description. Over to you, Sarah.
Right. Hi. Thank you again for having me here today. So I am the developer and owner, founder, chief information officer of Karma Chic. It's a web-based multi-vendor marketplace and e-commerce or ecosystem for independent businesses, meaning product-based businesses, artisans. It's for businesses that if you're just starting out, you have existing businesses, you want some help, you want to switch to a different platform to sell your product. We have I offer that through the marketplace, and then also service-based uh, independent businesses on there. But it's not just the marketplace. You get strategies, you get systems. I stay in front of all the new AI tools. I know a lot of artisans are scared of AI tools, but I teach the workflows, the integrations to help if you do want to do them. So there's different avenues of ways that you can that we help you from Karma Chic. And you can just go onto the website. It's www.karma, Karma, chic, CHICMP, M as in Mary, P as in Paul.com. And you can also just reach out to me personally if you want any kind of support. If you're in a space, you're thinking about starting a business, or you're already in it and you just want some positive reinforcement, you can just reach out to me via my email, sarah@karmachicmp.com.
Amazing. And yes, I'm going to grab all of those links. It's going to be in the show notes and in the description. So it's easily accessible for all of the listeners listening to us right now. Now, to wrap up, I want us to go around the room, and I'm going to start with Melissa, then go to Nakisa. I want you to think of your 21-year-old self. What message do you have for her?
Why do questions like this make me instantly weep? My 21-year-old self. Oof. Well, I would love to tell her that the greatest love of her life is her vocation and not a man.
Mm.
Not that there's anything wrong with falling in love and partnership. That's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful addition to your life, not the purpose for it. And I would love to tell her that she's not wrong. New York City is her home, and that everyone from her suburban upbringing telling her it's too expensive and unrealistic and doesn't make any sense can go shove it, because New York City is her home. And she shouldn't leave it. I'm back here now, but I don't really believe in regrets, but I do regret listening to that really bad advice, that you need to play it safe. So that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. Focus on your vocation. You're not wrong. Like, me at 21 knew exactly what she should be doing and got all sorts of kerfuzzled based on societal messaging that I think
Mm.
targets not just women, but I was suspect. So I was definitely fell prey to some advice for women at that point in my life. So yeah.
Wow. Incredible and so beautiful. Yeah, this question makes me cry, and I'm gonna think of an answer to give too, because I know people listening will be like, "Okay, Joy, what do you want to say to your 21-year-old self?" So I'm gonna say mine. Over to you, Nikisa, and then Sarah.
So, first, I want to say to my 21-year-old self who did practice self care, I would say to her, practice it even more. That everything that you do when you're young, your future self will thank you for. And
Mm.
don't listen to anyone who says that you're not fulfilled. To Melissa's point, if you don't have a man, if you choose to not have children, you are here for a reason. And everyone is, and those things should not define you. Those things, in my opinion, shouldn't even fulfill you. I think that they should be like the cherry on top. People, remember, you are the star of your own show. So people would sometimes say to me, who didn't know me very well, like, "Oh, how do you feel being in the background of your husband's art career?" Da, da, da. And I would say, well, actually, it's really all about me. So, I mean, I'm just helping him, but like, I'm the one in the interviews, and I'm the one that, and don't you see that I'm his muse? Like, I'm in most of the paintings. Like, so don't be afraid to be self-confident. So I didn't have an issue with this when I was 21, as you all might be able to tell, but I want to tell other 21-year-olds that self-confidence is not arrogance, and don't listen to the people who try to make you think that it is. I also, let's see, 21. So because I was, starting with my entrepreneurial journey in a real way at that time, I would tell my 21-year-old self in the business lane that you do not have to do everything yourself, and to get startup capital that doesn't come out of your own pocket. Get that business loan, get business credit, ask family and friends to invest, because that was something that I didn't do and I wish that I had. I don't have regrets either, Melissa, but it's an area that I pivoted to later, and I wished I had done it before, because I would have been able to scale quicker, and I would have been less stressed because I wouldn't have been trying to do everything myself.
Incredible, incredible, incredible. Thank you. Sarah.
So this kind of resonates because I actually have a 22-year-old. So this kind of is something I told her over the past few years is never let anybody dull your light or your shining star.
Mm.
Um, Going back, I wish that, I mean, life happens, but when I was at Florida State, my path was to graduate. And then I had a bunch of friends that were moving out to LA to get into the Hollywood scene. And then, but my path was I met my husband. And so I ended up staying in Tampa, but 'cause my whole dream was work at a boutique in Sunset Boulevard and this, that, and the other. And then I'll get married later on in life. Well, now I met my husband, got married, and had my daughter. So, but with her, very young at 24, 25, with my daughter, they're how they're being told, you know, it's still the school, and my husband's very traditional. Um, I told her she's an artist. So I just said, never let anybody dull your light. You will never get this light away. And she loves music festivals and this. And I said, do it. Get as much as you can do. You're 22. You don't have to know what you're doing. And have this career like picked out like right now. And with the pressure that it was very hard for her at first. And then with my husband, and he's, where's she going to these music festivals? Why isn't she? I mean, she took off from college. Well, now she's super successful in what she's going to do, getting into real estate. So she didn't let anybody dull her light. And
Mm.
I didn't at the time either, but I wish that I would have done more before I got married.
Wow. 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 I was gonna say and ask, do you sell supplements in Karamashik? Because how can you have a 22-year-old and look the way you look? So if you say something with send her
Very
my
good
name.
esthetician, but thank you.
You're welcome. Oh my gosh, incredible. So for me, for my 21-year-old self, if I could tell her, I want to say it worked out in the end. It all worked out. The fear I was having at that age of, am I going to end up like my parents in poverty? And I was hustling to like find a way and always worried. If I could go back, I want to tell her that it all worked out in the end. And I also want to tell her to kind of stand her ground. So at that age, I didn't want to get married, right? But I come from Africa and they were like, oh, it's gonna be shameful if you never get married, right? So I got married in my 30s and now I'm divorced. I wish I stuck to my guns and said, no, marriage is not my thing. At the time I told my mom, I'm happy to adopt a child if you want a child, right? So I wish I stuck to my guns, but yeah, I have no regrets. And all of the things I went through has set me up to where I am today. So I'm really grateful for that. Wow. This has been a masterclass, honestly, and I cannot wait for my audience to listen to this episode. I'm so grateful for three of you. You are successful in your businesses, and I know that this episode will inspire other women. Thank you all so much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you for having us.
Thank you. I'm grateful that you've introduced me to these new friends in my
And
life.
I
Yeah, it's really lovely. Thank you.
think we have
Yes.
like we're creativity at our bottom line because I heard creativity
Yeah.
out of each one of us.
Yeah.
Well, I think I might have things to put on Karma Chic. I need to
Yay.
talk to you, Melissa, because I want to be a voiceover actor. I don't know that you do that,
Yes.
but you might be able to connect. I want to
Yes.
read books that have Black characters. So
Care.
I've been looking for somebody that can help give me some consultation. So yeah, we'll be connected, the three of us.
Yeah.
That's
Well, the
awesome.
four of us, because we're connected.
Yes, thank you, Joy.
Yeah. Thank you, Joy.
Yeah, I am so grateful. Thank you all so much for listening. This has been the most impactful episode I have recorded ever on my podcast.
Oh wow.
And I am so grateful, truly, truly. Thank you all. We'll see you back here on the next episode.